It's podcast day. It's podcast day. Welcome in, friends. Today, you're going to notice that I'm joining you straight after my welcome. And let's see, let's back up a little bit here. Okay. I'm joining you straight after my welcome. Normally, I have some music playing and little introductory video vignettes. And instead of that, I thought I'm just going to sit down and chat with you. I have not been here in a little while, and what I'd like to do is get caught up. Is that cool? It is just about the end of January 2022, and it has been a pretty good start to the new year for me and for my family. The last 2 years have made me reassess what it means to be having a good day or a good week or a good month. And we're healthy and we have each other. And I feel like that tops the priority list right now. And that there are so many people who can't say that every day. And so I just feel really grateful for that. So I claim that and I assign that to be a good month. And what I wanted to catch up with you on today has mostly to do with some works in progress projects. So if you're new to this channel, I am a maker. I live in South Florida and I primarily make with yarn and fiber. So if that's your interest, welcome here. Thanks to all of you who keep coming back to hang out with me. I am just going to share some of what I'm working on and hope that it will help us continue our conversation that we usually have here. I've got a few works in progress that have carried over from last year, and I have a few that are newer because they got added in to my project pool, which is a phrase I'm borrowing from Melissa of Knitting the Stash podcast. So my project pool is quite full up to the borders with options, and I'll share some of those with you. First, I'm going to go grab a cup of coffee and be right back. Hello. So one of the reasons I'm not doing a lot of the little extra inserts and, what we call B-roll in this podcast is because when I thought about recording, mostly what I wanted was to chat with you guys about what you're working on. It's still the beginning of the year, so maybe some of you are formulating your plans for your making, and I'm really interested in hearing what that looks like for you. I'm entering a new season under the umbrella of my word of the year that I've chosen, and this year's word for me is time. I found myself thinking a lot about time, how I spend it, kind of where I allocate it, the things that I tell myself about the time that I have, and it's not always true things that I tell myself about available time. But yeah, that's my word for the year. And so I want to invite you into the conversation about how you'll be spending your making time this year. So starting with probably the needle adjacent work in progress that I have, I've got some hand spun yarn here. This is a stunning Suri alpaca. It's a brushed Suri that has been hand spun for me by Alanna Wilcox. Alanna is Spinny Buns on Instagram, and you can find Alanna at alannawilcox.com. Alanna spun this for me as a part of a project we're collaborating on. I can't say very much about it. It will come out in a magazine later in the year, but I wanted to show it to you because it's not on the needles yet, but the design has been laid out, and I'm so excited to be working with this wonderfully curated material from a fiber friend. So it's a work in progress in the sense that I've got the pattern for it and I just need to get it on the needles and knit the sample. And of course, when it's time, I will hope to be able to share more about it with you. So then I have the things that are currently on the needles and that I'm actively working on. One of them, I'll only be able to show you the yarn for the moment, but one of them is soaking right now to be blocked and seamed, and that is using this yarn. So this is going to be a test knit finish that's coming up in a couple of days, and I'm using some merino, no, that's not correct. I'm using some mohair silk that I naturally dyed, this gorgeous yellow, and some mohair Shetland. If I'm saying that wrong, I will edit on the screen to say what this singles yarn is made up of. It's got more mohair in it and Shetland, I believe. And it's a single, so that means it's not plied. And it has a ton of lovely halo, and the mohair gives it a little sheen. And I'm actually carrying this together for a sample knit vest. And if I do what I intend, I want to come back with shorter videos where I just kind of catch you up and join you in conversation in the comments. So one of the upcoming videos, I hope to show you either some pictures of the finished vest, or maybe I can wear it and you can see how it fits, but it's soaking right now. So I'm going to block it, and then I'm going to seam it together and take some pictures in it when it's dry. In my last couple of videos, I've talked about what is probably just my greatest comfort knit right now, and that is my Emalje sweater. It's an all-over ribbed and cabled sweater by Emily Green. Here's one panel of it. And I'm working the back and front pieces concurrently. So these are size US 3 needles. So that's a 3 point, let's see, US 3 is a 3.25 millimeter. And they are the perfect size for the fabric that I want here. But, you know, they're fairly small, so lots of ribbing. Lots of ribbing and squishy cables means time. It's taking time. I am okay with that though, because I'm really, really pleased with the fact that the project has a rhythm to it now. I'm going to keep going on that. It's a pullover with long sleeves, so I still have the sleeves to go, but I consider that an active whip because I touch that at least once a day, once every couple of days. Do you have that too? Do you have your active whips, long-term whips, needle adjacent whips? Let me know. Let me know if you kind of categorize your works in progress. I am more than halfway done with my sock blank sock project. So I've got one sock complete and the second sock nearly complete. I consider this an active whip as well because it's a sock. It's really easy for me. It's really easy for me to pick up and put down. So I've got the finished sock, which you would have seen if you watched my last episode where Adachi joined me. Adachi is my eldest child, my 20-year-old, and she was with me when I talked about the sock blank sock. And so number 2 is even further along now. So I've done cuff, leg, heel, and a good portion of the foot. And the toe, which is coming up in a couple of inches, will be done in more of that pink contrast from this sock blank. I love the fabric of this sock blank. It is a much more dense fabric than my usual sock yarn and fingering weight yarns provide. It's a Targhee blend. I will look up the exact percentages. It's Targhee and something else, but on the screen, if you're interested, I will put the blend of the sock blank, but it's really dense. It's almost stiff, to be honest. But the way that translates to a durable sock fabric is pretty great. So I'm loving that. And that's active as well for the same reason. I pretty much touch it once every couple of days at least. It's really easy to decompress after my day job by picking that up. Maybe you categorize your whips that way too. How much brain power is needed, or whether or not it's appropriate for doing along with another activity. I feel very lucky to have a project pool. I do have times where the amount of unfinished projects that I have can get to me. I'm not not going to pretend that I'm always really happy to have multiple things on the needles. Sometimes I feel like that dissatisfaction of not having finished anything in a really long time. But right now, I feel really good with the active whips that I have. I think that has to do with the fact that they all require something different of my brain, and they have different needle sizes, and they have different fabrics to each of them. So each time I sit down with any one of them, it does feel like a different experience, and that helps. So I don't feel bored by any of it. And I also think that because I'm getting close to a finishing point, like with the socks, I can see the light at the end, and that helps motivate me as well. Further back, further back in the pool, maybe off in the deep end of the project pool, I have let this languish for a while because oddly enough, it's closest to a finishing step. So I'm working on Citrine, which is a pattern by Emily Green as well. Citrine is a long sleeve pullover pattern. I am not going to be able to make it long sleeved because I don't have enough yarn. I'm using a Mayak yarn that was gifted to me, which I adore. And I have modified it so that it will be short sleeved. The yarn is gorgeous. I've talked about it before. The pattern has some beautiful texture to it. Let me show you. So it's a round neck pullover. I've put in a little tag, garment tag here at the back that just says heyBrownBerry on it. And I really enjoy the textured twisted stitches at the collar and at the raglan part of the upper body here. So as you can see, I've got the front and back pieces complete. They're not seamed together yet. I seamed together the shoulders so I can get a sense of the fit and the drape, and I have the two sleeves concurrently on the go. They don't look much like sleeves right now. They're going to be the length of like cap sleeves. This is what they look like. So those need to be completed and then seamed to the body, and I need to seam up the side seams so that I can consider it done. What has kept me from finishing this and why it is so far off in the deep end of the project pool is that because I'm modifying it, I'm having to do a little bit more math and figuring in order to get the body and the sleeves to line up the way I want them to for seaming. And I am definitely playing some yarn chicken. It's hard to tell from the size of a yarn ball, but there isn't much left. So I'm also having to decide, you know, at what point to kind of cut off the sleeve knitting, finish with enough yarn to bind them off in a way that looks good. And I just haven't been ready for that kind of mental exercise in a while. I don't like the fact that that happens to me usually near the very end of a project. I guess because I recently watched Melissa, I'm gonna refer to Melissa's podcast again. Melissa and her husband Spencer were talking about being 90%ers, and they have home projects that they get 90% complete, except for those last finishing touches. I feel that way about some of my larger knitting projects, especially sweaters have been like this for me for years. I will get 90% of the way to the finish point, and then the last little bit is where I tend to stall. So my intention is to finish this sweater. The fact that it's short sleeve will mean that I can wear it longer here in Florida, and that's a really good thing. I am moving towards making for wearing, so its usefulness will increase significantly once it's finished. And then I have another garment that I'm working on, and one of the things that's calling me back to this is that it's crochet. So this is a crochet jacket pattern. Hold it up a little further back here. Oops. It's not seamed up yet, so I kind of have to hold it together to be able to show it to you. So you can get the idea of what it's meant to look like. So here's an arm, front lapel going across the back, then the other side armhole. I am so proud of the colors in here because they are yarns that I naturally dyed myself. And it's meant to be a long sleeve, but I haven't started the sleeves yet. Currently, my temptation is to seam up the shoulders and kind of tidy up the neckline and see if I would like it as just a vest. But I have so much of this yarn left, and I'm really enjoying the color combinations, these subtle natural shades. So more than likely I'll put on the sleeves as intended. This pattern is from a very old crochet pattern book. And yeah, all I need is time dedicated to it. There's not much that's beyond me in terms of the crochet skill, so it's just a matter of spending the time on it. So that's just a quick review of my project pool, and I'm hoping that this video inspires you to share with me what you're working on this month. And if you're setting goals for the year, I want to hear about it. I am delayed in going back to my last video and responding to as many comments as I usually like to do. So that's something I'll be doing this week. If you wrote to me from the last episode, know that I'll be looking out for spending some time to respond to you. And if you'd like to chat with me some more, just comment below this video as usual. That's it, friends. I appreciate you sitting with me for a coffee catch-up of sorts. I'm wishing you a very, very good rest of the day, and come back and see me again. I hope that you don't mind this format where I skip some of the extras in favor of just jumping into conversation with you. Okay? Thanks for being here. I'll see you next time. Bye. Mwah.